joining in, this is the Tommy Jackson. And right now you have Whispers of the Witching Hour that has officially released as of yesterday
Yep.
on Vimeo on demand. I just want to jump on. So I think you might have been my last guest, like just like what, two, three, somewhere in there 2 months
Yeah,
ago.
pretty
Like
pretty
it
recently, pretty recently.
wasn't that long ago. And you had mentioned like you hadn't even finished wrapping the film. So, from that point to now, like just being able to see the film already, amazing job. And then just like my mind is still blown at the amounts. I think we touched on it last time, but even more so now after seeing this film, how amazingly like beautiful, so many things. It's like I just wanted to get you on here, talk about
Absolutely.
the process, and just how do you do this?
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny because Whispers of the Witching Hour, I had a concept for a script, an idea that was a feature film about a year or two ago. And after we did the tunnel, and the tunnel was, a huge project, a lot of resources put into that. I was kind of debating whether or not I wanted to tackle another feature film. I didn't necessarily know if I could get one done in the time frame of like within a year after the tunnel. Like I was like, maybe I should wait a little longer. So I decided to do like a short film proof of concept. So I said, you know what, with the resources we have, and probably because it will be even cheaper, and it will be quick, or maybe 2 days or something like that. Let's do a proof of concept based on this feature film idea that I had been brewing up, right? Which is Whispers of the Witching Hour. It's the same concept about, the two brothers, Jonathan in love with William's wife and all the insane things that happen with the witch. So we shoot essentially the short film, right? We do about 2-3 days of shooting, and we wrap that around like January, February. And we have about a 30-minute long short film, and we're watching it back, and we absolutely like love it. We're very happy with it, but we're like, man, this is too long for a short film. Because I've done the festival routes. I know how
Yeah,
they work.
yeah.
They
Hmm.
can be brutal with it because, they have so many people that they'll just be like, nope, it's not going to fit into our lineup, right?
Hmm.
And I use ChatGPT a lot. So I ChatGPT and I was looking up like films that are 30 minutes long that might have won, and it really doesn't exist, especially nowadays. And I totally understand, they have lineups for film festivals. And we made the decision, Ivana and I, as we were constructing this, we're like, okay, so do we post this story, probably, just onto our website, onto YouTube, and then submit it to some film festivals and see what happens. But we kind of know it probably won't do very well in film festivals. Do we do that and just kind of cut our losses? Or do we use what we have, because we had already shot so many sequences that could easily be put into the feature-length film? Do we just extend everything and make the original idea of a feature-length story? So we decided to do that. And with that in mind, we were like, okay, honestly, we had already gotten so much of the big, bulky scenes out of the way. Like we had filmed the bandits, that whole like gunfight and
Yeah.
everything. We had filmed all the stuff with the witch in the cabin. So with Magdalena in the cabin, all those. So we had done so many huge parts, and we had also done a lot of scenes in the house. We were like, well, all we really need to get now are some scenes in the woods and scenes back at the house. So it should take maybe another 2 to 3 days. So basically just another short film, right, in terms of length of shooting.
Hmm.
And we were able to schedule it out with the actors. And yeah, we did about another 2-3 days of shooting, whole film done. And we
Wow.
had a pretty like precise timing on how long we wanted the film to be. Between like 70 and 90 minutes was our, and now it's about 80 minutes. So it was like that was our sweet spot. Um,
Nice.
and yeah, we were able to do it. So yeah, that was the process in terms of filming. Um, and yeah, I mean everything came together exactly how we would have if we had come from the beginning to make a feature film. I mean, this would have been the best outcome in the first place. So it basically was just kind of like a nice kind of like step-by-step process to get it done. In a way, it's almost like we shot half the movie, reviewed and saw what we had, and then finished shooting it, which is always nice to have. Having that freedom is just nice because, you know, a lot of times if you have a very strict schedule, you know, then you have to go back and do reshoots if there's something wrong. And
Yeah.
a lot of times you don't have the money or the time or the actors are not around. So you're just stuck with what you got. So I actually really enjoyed the freedom of being able to be like, okay, this is what we have now. You know, this is the story now, but we can definitely expand upon it. And this is, you know, what the outcome will be.
Mhm.
And then, you know, behold, we have the film. So.
That's awesome. Go ahead. Well, for our viewers, can you go ahead and let them know if they haven't seen the trailer or anything? If you haven't, make sure you check it out and go, you know, rent or buy this film now. But go ahead and give us a synopsis of what the
Yeah,
film's
yeah.
about.
So it is, I consider it a gothic psychological horror film, set in period piece. So it's 19th century, turn of the century, you know, early 20th century. And basically it is about Jonathan, this man who lives with his brother and his brother's wife. And he has an obsession with his brother's wife. He's in love with her. And he ends up coming across a witch. And the witch essentially tells him that I can help you. Um, I can help you like make this fantasy come true. I can help, you know, facilitate this love between you two so that she is just yours. And through this, he ends up going through almost a ritual, I would say, and kind of going into a spiral of madness that leads to a lot of twisted turns. Um, and yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
everything without spoiling it too much.
Yeah. No spoilers. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful film. And like, honestly, like the opening, like frames just absolutely grab my attention. It's so beautifully done. And like, so I'm not a big horror buff. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
just not my thing. So it's like, I love your work. So I wanted to see it. And what was neat was it was enough to make me, I had to watch it during the day. Definitely had to watch it during the day. And, but at the same time, you know, the story was there and it was so riveting that it was like, oh yeah, I was in it. I wanted to see what happened and had all of the elements. But I'm telling you, the way you shoot is just so beautiful. Like I just couldn't, my eyes were like tingling because the
Oh,
cinematography
that's
is
amazing.
just absolutely beautiful. And that's, you know, the first thing that absolutely grabbed me. And when you're talking about it being a period piece, for the type of budget that you're working with, like number one, like I think the costuming and just like because I was transported in time. It wasn't like, oh, this is, you know, they're trying to do it, they're on a tight budget. I was there and it's like for the amount that it costs the whole film would it seems like would have gone into this piece. Like how do you manage to be able to do on such a tight budget and like
100%. Yeah.
just get everything so
Well,
right
in,
on.
in terms of, I mean, I 100% agree with you about thinking about budget with period pieces. Because when you see period pieces, right, or you hear about them, you think these are expensive, like the costumes, everything. And when we were when we were going into this, we were like, we don't know how much this is gonna cost. Like we're kind of just like gonna go with it until I guess we can't. But we're like, let's see. But honestly, so much of the costuming were things that can be thrifted, things on Amazon,
Mm,
things that you can
okay.
find in really like simplistic places. And the great thing about things like Amazon and stuff, which a little bit of a secret, but if you purchase things off Amazon and you return them, not destroyed, things like that, you get your money back.
Nice.
So there's a lot of things we're able to do in terms of that. Um, Definitely for the bandits, if you can remember what they were wearing, so much thrifting, finding these big vintage overcoats, things like that.
Mm,
That you know, if you just kind of search on the internet, you're gonna find hundreds of dollars worth of these things, like super expensive. You go to the thrift store, you get it for $5, right? And
yeah,
it's super
yeah.
cool, super vintage. And that's the great thing about doing a period piece is you can find these things that people don't care about anymore. They just throw them at a thrift shop, and the thrift people, I guess, don't really care about it that much, and it just looks so great on screen. And especially when you're doing something that's like turn of the 20th century, you know, because it's like it's going towards modern, but it still has that old feel. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If we were doing something that was like Revolutionary War or earlier, it would start to get a little more difficult. And
Yeah.
that was part of our, when we were really tactically thinking about the time period, we were like early 20th century. So we're looking at like 1900, turn of the century. We're like, this will be perfect because we can get the outfits, we can make it look realistic. Because that's the thing about like budget and things looking campy, you know, if we're gonna go put something that says like 1700 and then they're dressed in ways that don't make
Yeah.
sense, it's not gonna work. So I feel like it was just a whole array of all of that working at the same time. Same with
Well,
like the props, like the bandits with the weapons they're using. The revolver's a big piece of that. You know,
yeah.
that's a revolver from right after the Civil War. They called
Wow.
them peacemakers, and it just all kind of fit. But yeah, you were gonna say something.
Well, I was gonna say that, and I mean, like a huge amount of credit goes to the actors. You know what I mean? Like they really help put you there as well.
Oh,
You know what I
100%.
mean? Like all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
they like, it's crazy because, you know, what I mean, I've watched it now like over 50 times, right? I've watched it so many times, and every time I do, I get a new appreciation for how they developed the script on screen. Like seeing them and the language they used and the way they did it, just everything was brilliant. Like they really make those characters come to life, and it's like every time I watch it now, I feel more like a viewer than the filmmaker. So I start to see
Mm.
these things, and I'm like, wow, like that's amazing. Like I feel like I'm in that time period. And then a big thing goes to the house too. So the fun thing is it's called the Roth House, and it
Okay.
is the first ever United States recorded possession.
Oh,
So in the United States,
oh,
it's the first ever
oh,
recorded possession.
ooh.
And we have a couple little Easter eggs in there too, which is funny because the guy, John, shout out to him, at the Roth House. So basically, in the living room area where the piano is, there's a picture on the wall. It has
Okay.
two women on it, or two
Okay.
pictures of a woman, and those are the actual pictures of the girl or woman who was possessed
Ah,
back in like, it was like mid 1800s. And then
I'm so
in the
glad I
kitchen,
didn't know this watching
oh
it.
yeah, no,
Because
it's
that
so,
would have
and
creeped
we
me out too much.
we literally we stayed the night there too. So
Oh,
the
okay.
cast, we literally stayed the
No.
night. No one got eaten by a ghost, but it was definitely, you know, creaky and had some spooky moments. But yeah, like in the kitchen, if you look behind Jonathan when he walks in to talk to Lucy, there's literally a Ouija board there, like
Oh,
an old
no,
vintage
not a
one.
Ouija board.
Yeah, it's
No.
it's, it's crazy, but yeah, the house played a lot because that house built mid 1800s, like beautiful. Everything inside and outside looks exactly the same. So another big part of budget was, you know, we didn't have a house that was a skeleton that we had to fill with thousands of
Yeah.
dollars worth of props, and like a lot of that, most of it, 99% of it was already there. And that's one incredible thing about that location, which is in Watseka. So it's like hour and a half out of Chicago. So we would do the drive out there, and that when we were doing the feature, like going full for the feature, we did 2 days there, and we did an overnight. So we did Saturday, stayed overnight because there were enough rooms for everybody, and then Sunday, and then we headed back to Chicago to finish up. So
So that was something that came to mind when I was thinking about doing this interview tonight. Like the locations from the tunnel and this one, like, because when I was watching this film, I was like, man, that's a gorgeous house. Like, wow, that's so
yeah.
perfect. And I was just like, how does he do that? Like, how do you guys go about finding those locations? Is it just like, ooh, let's find the first possessed house? Or like, how did you find that specific
So
location?
that one, I had actually, I had actually filmed a fan film, my second Last of Us fan film,
Okay.
years ago. He had it listed on Peer Space. So for the tunnel, all those locations I found through Peerspace.
Okay.
My criteria for that was more like urban, you know, like warehouse, like that was what I was looking for.
Hmm.
But Peerspace is an incredible website that has these crazy locations. You really just got to comb through it and you'll find like
Okay.
gems.
Okay.
But a couple of years ago, I had found that on there, and I went back on and I found it again. I was like, this would be so perfect.
Yeah.
And the cabin was actually an Airbnb. So the cabin was hard to find. Like,
Okay.
especially being like in Chicago, in Illinois in general, like you go to the south or you go more west, it's easier to find these like more period sets like cabins and things. But
Hmm.
in Illinois particularly, it was hard if you're around Chicago. So we, for that, had to drive 4 hours out of Chicago to get to that
Dang.
cabin. And it was worth it. It was an
Yeah.
incredible cabin. It was so cool. Once again, well, that cabin, actually, the guy who owns it, he built it. He literally built it. Everything inside, like, it's just so cool, so period accurate. It's awesome. And we didn't spend the night there. We actually went there and then came back, which was crazy. But
Yeah. That's a
the
lot of
cast is
travel.
amazing. So yeah, a lot of travel. But that's the thing. We were still able to do it. It was nice that we didn't have to, fly to another state to have to get it. We were all able to do it in Illinois, which is nuts. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, a beautiful landscape. It just contributes to the eeriness and I'm sure a lot had to do with the soundtrack on that because it was so creepy.
Good. That's good to hear. That's good
I
to hear.
loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to get into, because a lot of the questions I've been like bugging you about have been like distribution and just, trying to pick your brain on that. What made you go this route with Vimeo on demand?
So the tunnel we have put into, I would say, I call it the Hollywood distribution, right? So not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just a totally different process. So it takes forever, especially right now, because the industry is always up and down, up and down. Now with that, you can, it's kind of higher risk, higher reward if you want to think of it like that. But also the tunnel was, I feel like, a different type of film. With this, when we went into it, we really wanted to just have full control over distribution. There's a lot of people who have different opinions about what you should do. I feel like with the tunnel, I had my own opinion, and then a lot of other people's opinion changed my mind, and that's why I went that route. Once again, not necessarily a bad thing. But with this, I was like, you know what? I want to stick to my guns. I want to try this out. This is our first like actual release of a feature film that is self-distributed, so it's our first time technically doing this. And we did a lot of research, so much research. Um, Out of all the research, we figured out that Vimeo on Demand right now is really the only platform that you can put your projects on, and you don't have to go through a middleman or an aggregator.
Oh
So
wow.
an
Okay.
aggregator, you go through an aggregator. You can do two things. Either it's an aggregator that's going to take $3,000 or $4,000 from you straight up, and you're going to give them the movie. They're not going to take any of the back end, but then you're kind of like you're out $3,000, $4,000. You don't know if you're going to make it back, and you don't know what they're going to do. And there's a lot of horror stories of aggregators
Yeah.
just taking the money, running off. Your film is gone. You never see anything. Then there's also Film Hub, which we are going to be using as well, and we are signed up and everything. And that basically they take 20% of all revenue, but they're free. So in terms of risk, it's really just you get to upload all your stuff, submit it all for free. They have access to Tubi, to Amazon Prime, Netflix, pretty much anything you can imagine. And essentially, what they claim they do, once again, it's my first time using it, but they claim that once a project's uploaded and you provide them with trailer, you provide them with posters and the things that we have, they essentially kind of pitch it to these platforms and see which ones are interested. I definitely know for sure that this film will get on Tubi for sure. I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, no, it's
Same
awesome.
with Amazon Prime. And then, it kind of goes out that way. But the thing is, once it makes money, whatever those take, you still got the 20% that Film Hub's going to take. So
Yeah.
for us, we went with Vimeo on Demand first because we keep 90% of the revenue.
Nice.
And that's something that when we heard that from Vimeo on Demand, we're like, whoa, that's crazy. You never really hear about
Yeah.
that. And you don't have to go through a middleman. But I will say to anyone who's interested in going that route, basically what you need to do is you need to get a pro membership. So you basically do it annually. I'm pretty sure it's between 250 or 300 for the year. And once you get the pro membership, you have access to Vimeo on demand. You can upload anything you want, put it out for rent, put it out for purchase. I wish I could show a little tutorial. It's kind of difficult to figure out because all the tutorials were removed because Vimeo is now pushing OTT, which is their like subscription service
Mm,
for like
okay.
kind of like bigger websites and stuff who want to get
Mhm.
subscribers, kind of like a streaming platform, like a
Yeah.
like if it's HBO or Hulu, you pay $20 a month. That's kind of what they've gone into. So Vimeo on demand, it's still up and still is clearly very functions beautifully. They just kind of hit it.
Mm,
So for us, like I remember when we were trying to figure it out, we had figured out that Vimeo on demand exists, and then we were reading things about how it didn't, and we were nervous about spending the $300 and it not working. So luckily, Vimeo has a 7-day trial that's free, which we did, and that's where we clicked around and we found that you can upload your film and still use it. So that was our first kind of wave. And then in a few months, it's going to go up onto the other platforms and it's going to have a whole nother wave. So
nice. That's really awesome being able to see you trying these different ways of going about it to see what works. And yeah, you analyze so many different things. I think, with that, you'll know what worked about it, what didn't. So that's
exactly,
really awesome.
exactly.
Do you also happen to have either like an email list or like some sort of newsletter? So because I know you've got like over what 1.8 million views on your YouTube channel. Have you been able to tap into that at all to be able to get access to your fans so that you can let them know, hey, this is where we're at, in addition to, the trailers and stuff that you post on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, absolutely. We definitely have posted to YouTube. My YouTube really grew from my fan films, specifically for The Last of Us. So it's definitely a tool that's there, and we definitely have gotten some views. I do think though the one thing with YouTube or really anything is right now the fan base on YouTube is definitely for my fan films. So when we've posted it there, yeah, we get some interaction and people like it, but they're not really there for that. If you think about YouTube, it's really people, everyone has a very short attention span now,
Mm-hmm.
right? They just want what they want. They want what they
Yep.
want. So it's really hard to grab people's attention. I think probably the best promotional spot for Whispers so far has been Instagram and Facebook, interestingly enough. Both those have been great. I've tested out doing, a couple dollars into the ads and putting it out. And that's actually gotten a lot of responses as well.
Nice.
So yeah, Instagram, Facebook has been great. Tried to do TikTok. TikTok thinks that it's too scary to put on there, so I don't really mess with that. Yeah, it's like always like I do it and it's like, oh, there's you're breaking our policy because this
Oh,
is like too
wow.
scary. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I'm like
You
whatever.
should like do a
Um,
dance and
yeah,
then
yeah.
just like put the link in.
Literally, that's what we might have to do. We'll get the cast. They'll all dress up again, and they'll just do a dance. And that's actually a really good
They may
idea.
be disappointed though because it doesn't really, match. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, but
yeah,
that goes to
no,
show
you
that
could
every platform has their
dance with
different.
like your shirt. Like if you like horror while you're
If you like horror,
dancing.
watch.
So
Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, I agree. No, that's a good idea. Look at that. You're good at marketing already.
well, there
That's
you go.
awesome. Yeah.
There you go.
So
Awesome.
yeah, every platform has their different way of doing things. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, that's great. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? I'm sure I'll probably have you here in another 2 months when you've done 4 more feature films. And I'm not trying to exaggerate it or anything like that, but I'm just absolutely like astonished in such a good way of what you guys are able to do. Like it's like so good. I've sent this to several people and I'm like, watch his stuff now because he's gonna be a household name and you're gonna be like, I watch his stuff from here. And it's like it's no joke. Sometimes you come across people
Hmm.
and you just you know what I mean, and you're one of those people. So
Thank you.
I'm very excited for you, and what you do, and the teams that you're building. We went to that
Oh,
last time.
absolutely.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. I'm cheering you guys on, that's for
Oh,
sure.
thank
So is there
you.
anything else that you'd like to share?
Yeah, first, we definitely do have some more features cooking. So we definitely are planning to probably start shooting another one end of the summer. Haven't decided on that yet, but we're definitely keeping the momentum. I think what's interesting, you mentioned team, right? One of the most incredible parts about like Whispers, the Tunnel, all of that is meeting actors and creating teams through actors has been something I think a lot of filmmakers undervalue. I think a lot of filmmakers are like, I got to go make a team of filmmakers, right? I want to go make a team of cinematographers and technical people, and the actors will just show up and then leave. Like, I feel like I've done it the opposite, where I've created an entire network of actors and worked with so many actors and continue to, and I like to expand it. And that's one of the things that has made the efficiency of getting these films out quickly and of high quality possible, because it's not a movie without the actors. And I've been able to work. I mean, you were in the Tunnel, you're incredible. Everybody in the Tunnel, I mean, there's like 80 plus actors between leads,
Yeah.
supporting, extras. Obviously, this was a smaller cast, but still, we had such incredible people, and the performances are just. I mean, I
Just
watched them back, and
absolutely
I'm
beautiful.
I'm
Yeah.
like
They did a
I'm
good
like,
job.
holy cow! Like I was on set, like behind the camera. That's insane. But I think for filmmakers, if there's anyone who's, you know, looking for suggestions or curious, I think developing relationships with actors is vital. You know, always, you know, it's important to have a crew and everything. For me personally, this film Yvonne and I made together. So in terms of crew, that's kind of what I consider the crew. You know, she produced, wrote, she did the wardrobe, the you know, the makeup, everything. Then on the technical side, you know, I was doing camera, directing, editing, things like that. And yeah, you know, there's times where it's like it'd be cool to have, you know, one or two more hands in there. But at the same time, when you're really strapped for cash, right? And you don't have all the financial resources, but you have a vision and you want to get together with people and just make something happen. And you're capable of doing these things, even if it is harder than having more people, you know, kind of stretched
Yeah.
out. Rely on actors, you know, make friends with actors, like work with actors, because when you work with so many actors, it brings everything to life and it makes the opportunities great. Because
Yeah.
I do feel like I've seen a lot of filmmakers, especially ones that I went to film school with and things, who, yeah, they're great at building crews. And then when it comes to finding actors, they never can. And
Yeah.
they're always in a rut. And maybe the actor they find is an actor who no one really wants to work with because the actor is, you know, creates problems, and they found them some on some weird shady website, and they're confused and they're like, how do you find, it's really like important to create those relationships and to treat your actors well, you
Yeah.
know, to make
Yeah.
sure that if there is an agreement for something, if they're supposed to be paid, if there's an agreement for credits, if there is an agreement for an overnight, you're like, I'm going to feed you, you know, I'm going to make sure you're transported, I'm going to make sure you're okay. That's very important, to have that
Yeah.
relationship. You do not want to work with an actor and just burn the relationship and act like it doesn't matter because I've got
Yeah.
a boom operator who I'm going to work with again. It's very important to build that. So that's my advice, I guess, this time
And
around.
it was great working with you, like being able to actually, communicate back and forth. Because I get nervous like asking director stuff, and we kind of tapped on this last time, but you were very open. I'd message you, and you'd already have it set up. You're like, oh, this is this, and does this work for you? And or if not, what will work better for you? And you're very open, and I appreciate that. And from the acting sense, like it really does feel like the things are changing, and it helps with directors and filmmakers like yourself to make that change. In that, like, we're getting the message of stop waiting around, like go out and make a film. But for an actor that doesn't have equipment, doesn't have the skill, we want to make those partnerships work and meet up. So having someone like you that's like, yes, I'm open to that, you can understand the benefit from that side. Thank you for sharing that, because it does. I watch you work with Sean, I watch you work with these other actors time and time again. It's like, yes, that's where the magic is, because then you just work together so much that it's like it just clicks. You know what I mean? Each other knows what's going on, and you get that level of comfort there. And let's see, it says, Lauren's asking, how does the casting process work for you? So the ones that you haven't worked with when you're looking for a new role, how do you go about that?
Yeah, so like honestly I'll reference the upcoming feature, right? So usually what I do is from the network of people that I've worked with, actors, first thing I do is I think of, you know, what who do I know that could fill a role and they'd be extraordinary. And who do I know who could fill a role and they want to do the role, right? Or even want to audition for it. So the first thing I do is I go through the network of people that I know, right? And that may be sometimes it's as instant as like the tunnel. Literally, when I wrote Anderson, I was like, Melanie is going to play Anderson. I don't want to even audition anyone else. She is Anderson. Sometimes it's as simple as that and straightforward, and it's based on, cross your fingers that the actor wants to do it. And sometimes I do have, a couple people I'm like, you know what, I believe they'd be great and I've worked with them, but I'm going to have them audition because it's never really personal. It's just some roles just, it just, you don't connect with it. And after that happens, I use Backstage. So Backstage has been my main thing that I'd use for casting online. I've done like on Facebook, I've definitely done some like extras, things for extras.
Yeah, that's a
But
good spot for
Backstage is
that.
great. Yeah, Backstage is great. I know that it can be like costly to do casting calls and everything, but Backstage you find some really great people. I'm speaking for Chicago in general. You'll find really great people, and you know, yeah. So it's kind of a simplistic process. It's who do you know, and then who can you find. That's
and,
really what it comes down to.
and you show up places because we met through, you showed up to someone and said, hey, can you come watch this acting class? So that's also, going toward you're going to these places finding the people. So
Yep,
that's super awesome that you do that. Yeah, let's see.
absolutely.
I think that's the questions that we have in there. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing talking to you, Tommy. I'm this movie. I can't wait to see, all the places it goes and all the reviews, and a couple things I'm gonna throw at you on the back end too. Hopefully, I just want to get it out there. So, if you're watching, make sure you go to Vimeo on demand, watch this film, rent it or buy it, and tell your friends about it. And if
Yes,
you want, I mean,
please.
it doesn't help Tommy a whole lot, but have the watch parties
Yep,
because then they'll
yep.
become raving fans too and go back and share with other people. So get the word out, let people know about Tommy and his crew. Uh, Indie Black Magic on YouTube, here on Instagram, and you are now back on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm back on
So
Facebook. No,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, watch parties are great. Honestly, like if you want to get together with some friends and family and you guys want to split the rental price, do it. I'm 100% for it because I'm more about getting the film out to as many people as possible to experience it than I am just about like every individual person. Like, go rent it and only you can watch it. No one else. No, no, no. Get the watch parties. I love that. That's great.
I'm I'm
I
getting my
wish
son
that.
over tomorrow. I'm trying to have a watch
Yeah,
party with him. So yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I know that once it does come to other streamings, platforms, it will probably be simpler to watch on a TV. For now, obviously, it's laptops, phones, and you can. I
And
just plug in
I do want to
HDMI.
see this one on the big
Oh,
screen. That was one.
oh, it
That was
looks
one
amazing.
complaint I had. I was like, my screen's too
Yeah,
small.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
need to
That's the
see the
one thing.
water and those drone shots. Just out.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, hey, it will
And
come
the
to TV
axe.
eventually.
The
Oh,
chopping of the wood.
oh yeah,
You
oh
know.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, it looks amazing on the big screen. But yeah, thank you so much, Melanie. Definitely, we're definitely gonna be working together again too.
Oh,
So we're gonna be
God,
hopping on this thing, and we're gonna be talking about the role that you just played in the new film. So
that'd be awesome.
yep,
Wonderful. Well, say hi to everyone back in Chicago for me, and hope to see you guys soon. And yeah, keep kicking ass.
definitely have a good night, Melanie. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.